What is up, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie, and Games Workshop has sent me the big box as we are gearing up for 10th edition. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys know what I think, show you some built models and maybe even some painted ones. And yeah, I expect there to be about 500 or so of these types of videos on YouTube at this point. So consider this 501. Let's get into it. So when this thing showed up, you already know I was so excited as usual. Hype for this thing is so real. If there is a hype train, I may as well be the conductor every single time. Yes, it's exhausting. No, I can't control it. And yes, I am happy with this aspect of my personality. It did kind of become a bit of a running joke in my family that this box was kind of like my fourth baby. But again, I'm okay with that. Aside from the mountain of sprues and the huge book, you also get transfers for your Marines, you get a deck box full of cards, and of course you get the instructions to build the models. The most exciting thing for me though was the objective markers. Now this is coming from someone who used to use bottles of Nuln oil and baby bottles on their table as objective markers, so I am moving up in the world. In the deck box, you are getting secondary missions, primary missions, secondary objectives, primary objectives, gambit cards, and deployment cards. Inside of here, you will also find this little guide that will walk you through the steps on how to play a game. I thought it was a little bit weird that this box does not come with the data sheets for the armies that come in the box. I did want to run a demo of 10th edition for myself just to play the game, and as of right now I can't do that. I have weapon profiles that I have access to from the assembly guide, and I guess I could go on Warhammer Community on the faction focus and get a couple of the units there, but I don't have army rules for the Tyranid army or the Space Marine army that come in this box. It would have been really cool to have those data cards with the box, and then I could run a demo game for myself, but right now that's just not an option. So let's get into the actual models themselves and what it was like to build them. All of the models in this box are push fit, as can be expected. It seems to be the trend that new launch boxes are going to be push fit models, and there are some pros and some cons to these types of builds. The pros include them being extremely simplistic. Some of the models in this box were as simple as pushing two halves together and popping some arms on them. Super simple and super easy for beginners and people who don't really want to sit there and go sprue hopping and find a bunch of pieces from a bunch of different places and be cutting and gluing and doing the whole thing. This is easy. However, because they are push fits, there is not any customization option. So you can't even move the angle of a head on most of these things. They are just as is. So they're described as you not having to use glue, you just pop them together. I found that no matter what, maybe it's because I have sausage fingers, but no matter what, I can never get them to be completely put together without a big gaping seam. So what I do when I build these is I just clip the assembly pegs off and I just glue them as normal. And for most of the models in the box, the tried and true method of putting them together and then using plastic glue in copious amounts along the seam and then scraping the seam with a hobby knife after was enough. But I did have to break out the milliput and do a little bit of gap filling on several models in this box. So just be mindful of that. You technically can build them without using glue, but they're not going to be amazing looking, and you're definitely not going to want to prime them and paint them in that state. You will be able to just pop them together and get them on the table if you're just learning how to play and this is your first time getting into the game. That's fantastic, but when you're ready to actually paint your army, you're gonna want to pop them apart and glue them together and then paint them. You know, although you can't customize the poses on them, customizing dreadnought kits specifically is something that's really stressful to me. I don't enjoy it, and I don't have that degree of like planning and geometry to figure out which pose is gonna look most dynamic without looking strange. So I was happy that the dreadnought was monopose, to be quite honest with you. I rate the lack of posability on these models 4 out of 10. The only reason it's not lower is because those 4 points consist of me not having to stress out about posing the dreadnought. That earned 4 points for this category. The book itself is just glorious, filled to the brim with delicious lore, scrumptious army pictures, positively tasty artwork. You know I am a sucker for large books. The smell is divine. I give this 11 out of 10. But my absolute favorite thing about the book is the new focus on combat patrols. And that goes beyond the book, but just towards 10th edition in general. It seems that Games Workshop is really pushing the combat patrol game format, with each combat patrol now having a name, a special section of rules, and combat patrol specific data sheets, which will balance out your units and make it so that you don't have to spend forever building a list and trying to figure out which weapons you need to equip your guys with. It is already predetermined for you when you select your combat patrol, which simplifies things a lot. Suddenly, building a new combat patrol has become an all-inclusive mini project rather than another proclamation of I'm starting another new army, which ends in defeat and a pile of shame that fills an entire guest room of my house. But this isn't specifically about me. When you're just trying to get a taste for a faction, you can do so easily with getting that combat patrol. False sense of hope that I will stop spending copious amounts of money on armies that I won't finish and that I will commit to simple combat patrols from here on out, 11 out of 10. The way that 10th edition seems to be a little bit more streamlined is perfect for people like me who want to pick up and go playing casual games with different armies and not crying myself to sleep over forgetting to use the right relic, warlord trait, and stratagem as the stars align on the 3rd moon of the 11th night of the 7th month just to defeat my opponent. Simplified rules, 10 out of 10. Now, if you are not following me on Instagram yet, you should go ahead and do that because all of my finished models will be posted over there as usual. And if you have not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, today seems like the absolute perfect day to go ahead and do that. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.